Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Draculetta.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Everything's going fine over here. How are things over at Ravenloft?
Not too bad. Not as much snow as you got, so that's a plus.
Yeah, I suppose that will be a plus. Unless, of course, you're someone who really loves the snow.
Which is not me, so everybody else can have it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Let's then head into the game news, and the DDO Winter Games are back, and the last thing I know this week that I wanted to do is to get a reminder of the snow.
Yeah, exactly. What a perfect week for this to hit. Yeah, that's right. You can ice skate, you can speed skate, you can ice jump, you can do it all in the Midwinter Festival over in Evening Star and the Risia Ice Games in Eberron. It is now active. You can enjoy it for all of its icy funness, I guess.
If you enjoy the snow.
Yep. Don't know what else to say about it.
Right. Then let's head into the DDO Chronicle, issue 175. Looks like our friend is on the front.
Yes. Bonnie should be happy that a certain person made the graphic cover of the Chronicle. I'm sure she's happy about that. In the Community Spotlight section of our Chronicle this week, your DDO has a legendary green steel crafting planner up. Check that out if you want to plan out your awesome legendary green steel weapon. Thunder Monkey, that is an awesome name, has created a spreadsheet for named armor in DDO, so click over and check out that project that a Thunder Monkey is working on. In the fansite news section, DDO Cast had a episode where they debated those little critters, Pineleaf.
Ooh.
You know the ones I'm talking about.
The ones, I'm a monster.
It was the DDO Cast 414, the DDO Debates Gnomes.
Gnomes are coming. They're coming for you.
And that had myself on there, Bonnie Bew and Failed Legend. We debated all things little G. So check that out if you want to hear what we think of those little G guys.
So we get to really know what you think about it?
Yeah, I didn't hold back. It was an interesting debate. I think the reason why they had me on there is I was the only one that I still don't get it. I don't get the fascination with them.
Okay,
but
I was wondering, are you one that's in the school of Phineas Fingers on what concerning those people?
I guess it depends what you mean by that.
There is an old Phineas Fingers story arc where they discover the dirty secret that the little ones who are coming were actually the same race as the dwarves and the halflings, and that they were all just a bunch of tricky halflings who were tricking people into thinking that there are three different races.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to look that up. That's awesome.
I don't know how easy it is to find these days, but because that's from the very, very old Dragon magazines.
Okay, well, I will actually. I have quite a few of those actual magazines, believe it or not, still. So yeah. I'll have to look through and see if maybe I have that.
And there is also, I know at some point there was an anthology of Phineas Fingers that was published years ago. I think about 15, 20 years ago.
I'll have to try to find that. Also, in the fansite news section of the Chronicle, the Damsels of DDO head to Amaroth. So click there and to see their exciting adventures that they had in Amaroth. Ladies' Night, which features Bonnie Bew over on Argadescent. On Thursday night, they are a new Twitch show that is on Bonnie's channel. And they talked about the match game. And yes, I was actually watching that live, and they did. There was quite the, probably about 45-minute conversation about the old match game show.
The old match game show.
It sounds weird, but it made sense in the context. And now, it was a fascinating discussion, actually. I will give them that.
Now, when you're saying the old match game, because back when I was young, Are you talking about the one which when I was young we were calling the new match game because there was one before?
The one that always had Richard Dawson in the center square?
That would have been...
That's the one that they were talking about.
Okay, yes, they are talking then the one from the 70s then.
Yes, that would be the one that they were talking about.
All right, because I'm not too sure if there are too many people remember the one from the 60s.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even know there was one before that. That's the only one I know of.
Yeah, well,
the 70s,
that's because I think the first one ended before... I think when I started watching game shows, I think just after the old one ended.
Okay. And finally, we have DDO Gamer. Jeff is celebrating a guild accomplishment, so you'll have to check over and see what guild accomplishment he is celebrating. And that pretty much wraps up our chronicle for this week.
Then let's head on to the store sales. Anything nice and exciting for sale this week?
There is 20% off character slots,
Ooh.
Westing tools, healing items, spell point potions, and the stat buff potions, all in the store through the 28th at 20% off. So now is the time to buy some character slots if you're looking for some. Never buy them at full price. Always get them on sale. And our free sample of the week is a Midwinter Spirit token ×2 when you use a coupon code that you can find in our show notes. And you can use that code one time per account.
Then let's head into our site news, and we'll begin with the DDO Players Poll. And what was your favorite part of the producer's letter?
We had 33 total voters this week, with the number one response being the Bug Zapper at 27%. 18% said the 10th anniversary. The opportunity to defeat some devs in battle also came in at 18%. The free multi-character level dungeon at 15%. And the little G guys at 12%. And then other at 9%. And that kind of surprised me. I figured the 10th anniversary was actually going to win, but bug fixes, which I can see why people are excited about bug fixes. That's a good thing people are excited about them. I'm just surprised. I just figured the 10th anniversary, there'd be more people excited about that. But
we do have a couple of comments. The first was from Trexel, who said, my favorite part may be the revision to Kenneth crafting. I definitely want to know more about it.
And RD2Play, Ready to Play, I love that name, says, although it was not a complete producer's letter, like we're used to, in my honest opinion, this letter should be used to show the player base what direction the devs think to be going for the coming year, and for the player to react with likes and dislikes. It's nice to get a more detailed quarterly, but it takes away from the long-term discussion. And I kind of agree with you there. This was kind of a different producer's letter, but as we talked about last week when we talked about the producer's letter, this is the direction they're going with the producer's letter. So I guess we got to work with what we're dealt.
I have a feeling, though, that the longer-term plans are being discussed with the player council.
More than likely, yes. I'm pretty sure they know what's going on. And we will soon when they feel we should, I guess.
Right.
What more can we do, you know?
I guess we can go into the dungeon.
Sounds good.
Yes, and we'll begin with Watsy, who, ask me anything on Reddit.
Yes, a couple weekends ago, they had an AMA on Reddit. If you're not familiar with that, what you do is AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. You can ask any question you want, and if the person or people that are giving the AMA can answer it, they'll answer it. So this was done over on the D&D subreddit. They had Mike Merles, Chris Lindsay, and Trevor Kidd from Wizards. And there was a ton of questions that they were asked. And I picked out a few of them. I did kind of go through some of the major points that I thought in the post I put up. There was a ton more questions than what I put on the post, though. I forgot how many total questions there were, but there were a crazy, crazy amount of questions. And they actually answered just about everything, so. We did learn some stuff, for example, relating to the new Dungeon Masters Guild. The question was, are you planning to let people create content in worlds other than the Forgotten Realms for the Dungeon Master Guild? And Trevor Kidd answered that. Right now, it's only Forgotten Realms, but we may open the DM's Guild up to other settings in the future. Starting with the focusing on the Forgotten Realms, we'll see where this takes us. So, and that's about the second or third time I've heard them say that they're open to the idea of opening up the Dungeon Masters Guild to other settings. So we might see some Eberron content, maybe, or maybe some Dark Sun. Who knows what we'll see. There was a big thing, and this happened right after the Dungeon Master Guild came out. We didn't talk about it at all. I was going to when we were talking about the DM Guild, and I completely forgot. The question was, Twitter is buzzing about the lack of artwork protection for works submitted to the Dungeon Masters Guild. It only seems as though public domain artwork is allowed, since once submitted, all of the work becomes user-created content. Are there any plans to allow for more protection for artwork in the future? And Mike Merrill's answered this. The folks behind OneBookshelf.com actually approached us about this exact question earlier this week, and they proposed a solution to this issue that looks pretty good, so expect a change to address this issue shortly.
Good time for the question.
Yes. And the other big thing that I know we did talk about this when we talked about the DMG, the Apple's iBookstore takes 30%, Drive-Thru RPG takes 35%. That is a significantly lower cut than what the DMG is taking at 50%. So what factors went into determining the fair compensation to Wizards for providing this marketplace so that authors may be aware from that going in? The answer from Mike Merles was the big thing comes down to the use of the Forgotten Realm, which we feel has some real value. However, that percentage also allows us to fund new content for the Guild, host events, and so on. We don't have anything to announce yet, but building the community is definitely part of our thinking.
Then let's head into another question many people might have is, where can we find the Dungeons & Dragons team in 2016?
All over the place. Starting in February, they will be at Winter Fantasy. And so will we. We are going to be covering that as well. And I did find out today, it looks like I do have an interview set up with Mike Merles from Wizards of the Coast. So if you guys listening have any questions you would like to ask Mike Merles, go ahead and send them to podcast@ddoplayers.com. Podcast@ddoplayers.com, and I will be happy to ask Mike Merles your burning questions that you have about 5th edition or anything related to Dungeons & Dragons. That's not totally official yet, but he said it's not a problem with him. He should have some time to do it. He just has to clear it with PR. And then in March, you can find the Wizards team at GaryCon. In April, they'll be at PAX East. In June, they'll be at Origins. And PAX Prime is coming up in August. They will be there as well. Now, Pineleaf.
Yeah.
I talked about PAX. I talked about Origins. I talked about Winter Fantasy and GaryCon. What did I not mention in that list?
Talked about PAX, talked about Origins.
There's one huge convention I did
mention.
mention.
GenCon seems to be missing.
It is missing. That's because Wizards is not going to officially be at GenCon this year. Mike Merles said GenCon is not on that list because we are changing things up to support more conventions and locations. Even though the Dungeons & Dragons team won't officially be there, we know our friends at Baldwin Games will be hosting plenty of D&D adventures at GenCon. So it's safe to say there will be ample opportunity to play some D&D during GenCon, and we're excited to head to some new conventions this year and meet folks who don't have the opportunity to travel to Indianapolis.
I guess they decided one convention in Indiana per year.
Yeah, I guess. It's like, who would want to come to Indiana twice a year? I can say that because I live in Indiana.
And they say that this is the first time that they're going to GaryCon, which is a rather strange thing considering...
Yeah, I cannot believe they have never been to GaryCon before. But yeah, they are pretty excited about going to GaryCon for the first time, which makes sense because, that GaryCon is about Gary Gygax, and that's who created their game, so
right.
It would make sense they would be there all the time.
And of course, it's being held where GenCon's named after Lake Geneva.
Yes, exactly. And it's, as far as the whole Gen Con thing, to me, it's not a real shock because you were hard pressed to find Wizards the past couple of years at Gen Con. Their booth has continually gotten smaller and smaller. And last year, they technically didn't even have a booth. They did have a small presence there, but it was in the D&D play area, and it was in like the back, just in like they had 4 or 5 tables roped off, and you could find a bunch of the Wizards team there throughout the day. So that was pretty much their quote unquote booth they had at Gen Con last year. So as somebody that goes to Gen Con, I'm not surprised. It's kind of sad not to see them officially supporting Gen Con anymore. But, and another thing with Gen Con, it's kind of shifting, I think, into be more of a board game convention anymore.
Now, that's really strange.
Yeah.
Because I had always thought of Origins as the big board game convention.
Right, and it kind of used to be, but Gen Con is slowly adding more board game space, and there's a lot of board game coverage there. Just, for some reason, D&D have just had a shrinking presence at Gen Con, and Pathfinder is huge at Gen Con, which is kind of weird to me that Wizards allowed Pathfinder to, take over Gen Con.
Yeah, that is very strange.
Yeah, in my opinion, they kind of let Pathfinder take over, so I don't know. Maybe that's something I'll ask Mike Merles about and see if if he has any comments on that. Just from my perspective, Gen Con is the Pathfinder convention now.
Yeah, that's very strange. As when you consider, the roots of Gen Con, because I thought of it as a D&D convention.
Exactly, it's strange. So, but you can find Wizards folks plenty of other places, just not at Gen Con apparently.
Well, we're going to have a strange year then. Then let's head into the Curse of Strahd Tarot deck. And what exactly is a Tarot deck?
Tarot deck.
I had a quick look at it. It didn't exactly remind me of a Tarot deck.
Well, it is, but that's what it is, because that is the deck of cards that Madame Eva uses in Ravenloft to tell your fortune. And as we mentioned when we talked about the Curse of Strahd release, I said Gale Force 9 was indeed going to produce a deck of cards, and they are. It's going to be a 54-card deck, and that is illustrated by Chuck Lucas, and it is all in black and white. The product is designed to feel like a real Gypsy tarot deck, and is produced in playing card size on textured stock with matte finishes. And if you would like to see what all 54 cards look like, over on the D&D Next subreddit, a user posted up the full gallery of all the cards on Imgur. So you can go over there and look at the full 54-card deck. Because this is what, if you follow the official Wizards Twitter account, once a day they tweet out something from Madame Eva, and if you retweet that, she will give you a card and give you your fortune for the day. And this person did is he looked at all of those responses that went out to that, and he figured out what all 54 cards were. So now we can see what the cards look like. And I gotta say, they have some awesome artwork on them. Gale Force 9 does do some amazing work on all of their official D&D 5e products, so it doesn't shock me that this is as good looking as they are. It's got a manufacturer suggested retail price of $10, and it should be available at retail and on Amazon and other online places the day of the Curse of Strahd release, which is March 15th.
They must be expecting a pretty good distribution, because $10 sounds low for a specialty card deck.
Yeah, I was really surprised that the MSRP was only $10 on it, and and the way the artwork is and the way they describe the cards, they're good printed cards. So I'm not sure how they got the price so low, but I guess it's good because maybe they'll sell more that way since it's a lower price deck. And I should mention this too, because I know somebody on Twitter asked me this question. You do not need the stack of cards to run the Curse of Strahd adventure. This is just an add-on if you want to add some flair to it. So when Madame Eva is reading the fortunes, you actually have the actual tarot deck of cards you can use. You can use any other tarot cards you have, or you can use playing cards if you want. Or you don't have to actually use cards at all. You can just have her read the fortune without the cards. It just kind of adds flair to it if you actually have this set of cards.
That reminds me back in the days when I was running a GURPS Victorian horror story, and one of the characters was into tarot reading. So whenever she wanted to consult the cards, I would lay out a set of cards and transmit it to her.
See, and didn't that add just more style to your game and just immersed your players more?
Oh, yes. It definitely added some interesting things to the game.
And that's what the Curse of Strahd deck will do for you if you were the DM as well.
Then let's head on to the tabletop. And we'll begin with some new details for The Walking Dead All-Out War miniatures game.
We are getting more and more news on this as they are ramping up for their Kickstarter for this game. It is going to be live in 7 days from this recording. We will have a post up when the actual Kickstarter is live for this. But we did get a look at our Dale figures, so if you're familiar with the comic book and the TV show, you'll know who Dale is. I think they did a pretty good job with the miniature on him. And remember, the board game is based off of the comic book series and not the TV show. So keep that in mind. I know there's some people that are upset about that, but the comic book is better. People, I'm sorry. Yeah, there are. Yeah, I saw some threads on Reddit that people were like just up in arms that they were not including the TV universe in this game. And I'm like, people just find the smallest thing to complain about and they run with it. Of course, what would the internet be without people that would do that, right?
Well, yes. And I have a feeling there was an extra licensing thing you'd have to go through in order to do it based on the TV
sure there would
anyway.
Be. Yeah, I'm sure there would be. And then along with the look at the Dale, we also found out about the walkers that you will be facing. They are slow and unarmed, but they are much more dangerous than they first appear. What is going to happen is the walkers in the game are going to be controlled by an AI system in the game itself. There are 3 ways in which the walkers can be made to move. If a player gets too close to any of the walkers with what they're calling their kill zone, then the walkers will lunge to attack, biting and clawing at the survivor. And then secondly, the walkers are often attracted to loud noises. So, for example, gunshots, and if you run a lot instead of walk in the game, that will attract the walkers too. So that is going to cause them to move. And creating any other sound are going to draw them in. And once, as I said, that is run by an AI. So I kind of assume that they didn't really talk too much about it, but I'm kind of envisioning it to work kind of like how the adventure system board games work. When I'm assuming what's going to happen is when each player moves, they're also going to play the walker on their turn. I'm guessing that's how it's going to work. That's how most board games handle something like that.
Okay, so therefore this is going to be a co-op and not a...
It is a co-op game, yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yes. No, it is totally co-op. You are the survivors. It's the survivors versus the zombies, and the more the survivors work together, the better chances are they're going to have to win. I mean, as and with any other games, you don't have to play it as a co-op if you don't want to. You're going to have a better time, and you're going to have a better chance of winning if you play it a co-op style. But that's up to the players. And as I said, the Kickstarter for this does kick off in 7 days. We will have all the details on that Kickstarter when it's up and it's live. And something tells me that Kickstarter is going to probably meet its goal, I will say, the first day it's up.
Yeah, okay. Now that because I was assuming that it was going to be a competitive style game or something like this. It's a co-op, I'm more likely to be interested in it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a co-op.
All right. Then let's head into the tabletop games. And how well do they do in Kickstarter?
Very, very well. Actually, tabletop games were, for the first time ever, overtook video games last year on Kickstarter.
Well, I have to admit that I probably did my share in helping in that.
The video, just if you want some numbers here to back that statement up, video games pulled in just over $46 million in 2015. Tabletop games raised double that amount with almost over $88 million for tabletop games on Kickstarter.
Whee!
And another interesting side note of that $88 million, 10% of that came from Exploding Kittens alone. Which, Exploding Kittens, of course, is the cartoony card game that currently still holds the record for the most funded Kickstarter project of all time. with $8,782,571.
Wow, that is
of a merely $10,000 goal. They wanted $10,000, but they got $8 million. Yes, I said million finally.
Boy, yeah, because I think that's about twice as much as Mystery Science Theater got on their Kickstarter.
Yeah. So, like I said, so far, it'll be interesting to see a Kickstarter do better than $8 million because that is just some crazy money.
Crazy is.
So the moral of the story: if you have an idea for a tabletop game, go on Kickstarter and you'll make a crap load of money.
Well, I do know that tabletop games can be tricky because, some of them have been, some real gems have come out of Kickstarter and a few.
Right. And the Kickstarter released this over on their blog on their site, and they did say that the tabletop games made more money in the Kickstarters, but the video game were actually more likely to be actually funded and the project actually come to fruition than what tabletop games were. So I guess that goes along with what you said. It can be tricky doing a Kickstarter for a tabletop game.
Yeah, because tabletop games, you always have fun with production stuff like that.
Right, yeah. And it's way easier to do video game than to actually, of course, make an actual product, which makes sense.
So let's then head into GenCon. Yeah, back to GenCon, where the 2016 badge registration is now open. And how many minutes ago did you get your...
I actually got my badge the day the badge registration opened, which was on Friday. I applied for the press pass, and I found out about 7 hours later that I got approved again.
Okay.
So, yes, we're going to be covering GenCon again this year.
I guess it helps if you have been approved before.
Yep.
Yeah,
it did, yeah.
Okay.
Look for all sorts of great interviews, videos, and total craziness of GenCon coming in August on the site.
Well, then let's head into Archeology, the new expedition coming from Z-Man Game.
Have you ever wondered what the secret of the Egyptian desert might hold, Pineley?
The secret of the Egyptian desert.
Have you ever wanted to be Indiana Jones, Pineley? Have you ever wanted to be a Tomb Raider?
More likely Indiana Jones. Though I have to admit that the realistic part of me says that I probably wouldn't last 10 minutes in Egypt, but...
And Brack Barefeet in the chat is saying the secret of the Egyptian desert is a lot of sand.
In other words, they export glass?
They could, Pilot. This is a brand new card game. Actually, it is an update to a version of the game they had out earlier. It's designed for 2 to 5 people. It features all new artwork, and you are basically raiding the Egyptian desert for all of the secrets and the tombs, and you're trying to dig at your excavation site to get the most amount of artifacts to sell to museums, but you got to watch out because there are tomb robbers and thieves that will rob you of your goods before you can get them to the museum.
Oh, of course. And of course, the biggest things you have to worry about are the other players, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure there's some good screw-over cards in there somewhere. There usually is. Look for this game to launch a little bit later on in the month, and we'll have more news on that as soon as we get it. All that was out was just a press release from Z-Man Games, but the graphics look pretty good on the cards, and it sounds like an interesting premise for a game, so it should be interesting to check this one out.
Then let's head into our week in DDO. And Drac, what were you up to?
Well, my rogue still sitting at level 21 in Evening Star. I attempted, note the keyword here being attempted, to do the rest stop quest. I am totally missing something in this quest because I could not figure out how to get both crystals lit to open the gate to get to the final boss. I found the one where you have to fight the water elemental. I got that one lit, but I sure can't figure out how to light the other. I can't find any other place to go. Can't find any levers to pull. So I guess I got to go in and try to figure that out. I'm sure it's something just silly that I'm missing. But so I failed at my attempt to do rest stop. That was really all I did on my rogue, because after that I was like, I'll do that later. My Shade Archive, still running the Devil's Gambit, still trying to get a drop. I'm getting closer now, though. I did get a name drop, but it was the Bracers.
Uh-huh.
Or no, I'm sorry, not the Bracers, the Docent dropped. So I'm like, yay.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure you're really excited about getting a Docent.
Like, yay, a Docent that I'll never use because I don't make any characters that need Docent. So yay for the Docent. But I am starting to see name drops, though. So maybe one of these times I'm feeling a quiver dropping. Maybe. Could be. Possibly.
You're quivering with anticipation?
Yeah, I'm quivering. It's never going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. And then the other thing I did, in DDO at least, is what I did with you. We will, of course, let you talk about that, as you always do. The other thing I did, D&D related, still played Neverwinter. My Ranger, which I totally lied to everybody last week when I talked about Neverwinter. Because if I recall, I said my Ranger was either level 8 or 9. No, I lied.
By a few levels, it looks like.
By about, say, my little Ranger is now 39. I was setting at 37 last week. I don't know why.
37. Now, how does 37 translate into real D&D?
Yeah, see, it's kind of weird the way they do it. I would say, in Neverwinter, 37 would equal, in pen and paper D&D, would probably equal about level 20 in the epic levels. Probably. That's kind of roughly. It's done weird. Neverwinter's a weird game.
Okay.
Really, my Warlock is up to level 13 now. I was right on my level of my Warlock last week. I didn't lie about my Warlock. I just lied about my Ranger. I'm set at level 13. Was running through a bunch of stuff with the Warlock. I'm having a heck of a lot of fun with the Warlock in Neverwinter. It's almost as fun as the DDO Warlock. So that was my week in DDO and D&D gaming. How about you, Pineleaf? What were we up to, and what did you get up to?
Very well, then on my level 19 Artificer with Draculator, we went into the Stormhorns in the Forgotten Realms. We began with the Tracker's Trap, which I believe this is the first time we did something together for our first time in doing it. I don't know if there's any other time we were...
No. I had never been to the Stormhorns before. So yes, this was the first time. I have never seen the quest before you have.
Right, because I think generally you had seen the quest before I had, either with your rogue or something like that.
Yeah, usually my rogue has done all the quests that we end up doing. So we decided to mix it up and go in the Stormhorn since I had never done that yet.
And after that, we did Lines of Supply, which involved stopping a rather unconventional convoy.
That's an understatement.
I mean, when they were talking about convoys, I was expecting to find wagon trains coming through.
And I must say that your reaction to that was pretty much pure audio gold.
Oh, when I found out what was going on?
Yeah. Because I had ran ahead. You were behind, and I had ran ahead because we were trying to find out where the convoy was coming from. And when I told you what it was, your reaction when you ran up and saw it, it was just gold. Pure audio gold. I should have been streaming that night because it was amazing, your reaction.
Then also on my level 3 Ranger, I decided to go into the Cerulean Hills for my episode of my Archer series. I was doing the landscape. I was going all throughout the landscape, trying to see how many of the points of interest I could find. I think I found a little more than half of them. I didn't find them all. But that's what you get when you're trying to do a 20-minute episode and trying to look for things all over the place.
A speed run through the Cerulean Hills Explorer area.
Yeah. And that's what I did through there. Later on, I did go in and do Weather Smoke. And after that, I was at level 3 plus 4 steps. And I decided that I wanted to do the waterworks before I hit level 4. So therefore I decided to stop there and not do the captives or to go further into Cerulean Hills and poise myself for doing the waterworks for my next episode of my video, where I'm planning to do the Arlos for my next episode.
Because Cobalt still hates you, Piley.
Well, of course, yes.
And he remembers waterworks.
And I remember waterworks, yes, of course. And that is it then. So if you'd like to help support DDO Players, you go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards including a mention on DDO Players News or even be a guest host with us. This week we did not receive any reviews, but we would like to hear one from you and your support through iTunes. This week we do have a featured comment though. The cleric from the party left a comment on episode 66, G's in Bags and Displacer Beats. As to Track's line of the party splitting, the barbarian and the rogue wanted to spend some time alone. Plus, they were dumb enough not to follow the cleric and paladin, the two sources of healing. Drac should know this group, give us things pointing to the underworld, and we are going to try it. Remember the cliff?
So true. Truer words have never been spoken. Give them an inch and they take a foot.
Oh, that's very true. So I presume then that cleric from the party. Okay, yes, that's the
Yes, that was my cleric. That was in my D&D group. That is the cleric from the party left a message.
We did not receive any emails this week, but you could send us one at podcast@ddoplayers.com. You could also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance, @Players Ally, DDO Players, @DDO Players, Draculetta, @Draculetta_72, and Pineleaf, @Pineleaf Needles. The Players Alliance has 5 live shows. Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. Every other Thursday at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have XP Quest. Every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lojo Players News. Every other Saturday after Lojo Players News, we have Tales from the Free Folks. And on the last Friday of each month at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lojo Academy After School. You can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to quest responsibly.